Our negotiating blueprint is taking shape. We're going to add another level to that blueprint because we want to talk about formulating, or how you deal with that all-important initial offer. Let's understand one thing for sure. In every negotiation, each side comes to the table with an idea of what their first offer is going to be. How do you and I formulate that offer? That is, that all-important initial offer. One thing we always grapple with is, how aggressive should we be? What amount should it be? How will it be received by the other party? Well, I've got a number of points that I want to deal with here, but here's my dilemma. How you structure that first offer really depends upon a number of factors that I can't know at this point. How badly do you need the deal? With whom are you negotiating? How much information do you have as to what the right figure should be? So all I can do is give you general guidelines, but I'll tell you what. You filter your next situation of coming up with an initial offer through these 10 or 12 items, and you're going to be on target. One thing we know for sure, you will have to come up with an initial offer. Now, what do we say in other programs? We hope. We're going to work hard. We're going to do our best to not make that first offer or put the first offer on the table. So our first offer may be a counter. But there are circumstances where it is on our behalf that we have to make the first offer. And you know what? You only get one chance to get off to a good start. Only one chance. So we certainly want to give this particular aspect of negotiating, as we build our negotiating plans, to come out perfectly in the way we want it to be. So we only have one chance to make it work. And you know what? Guess what studies have told? Where you start often determines, or is some predictor, or has some influence on where we end. If you start off at the wrong spot, you're probably going to end up at the wrong spot. At the end of this program, I'm going to give you a strategy of being too aggressive or not aggressive enough. It's a concept called the pivot point. But let me hold off on discussing that for a moment. One thing we all grapple with: what should our offer be? Should the first offer be high? Should it be low? Should it be reasonable? Should we hold firm? Should we be aggressive? Would we be so aggressive that we insult the other side? Those are always the things that pull us back and forth. Well, the good news is we can anticipate and we can prepare. I'm going to give you two adjectives that I think you should apply to your first offer. Make it ambitious. Ambitious. I've heard somebody say you need to have a high demand initial offer. That gives you room to negotiate. High demand, let's use the word ambitious. But don't make it so ambitious that it becomes aggressive. Make it ambitious, but, here comes the second word, discussable. You want the other side to kind of flinch or wince a little bit when that first offer comes out. If you don't get that sort of reaction, you probably came in too mild. So you need to be ambitious, but you need to be discussable. Give yourself room to negotiate. And above all, make sure you do your homework before you begin. If you're going out to buy something, do some research and find out what is an item like that, a service like that, cost. You can go online. The internet resources today are so extensive that there's no excuse to go in and not know what something is worth or what it's selling for or what somebody should pay for it. With the eBay, with the Craigslist, with the pricing resources online, there's so many places to buy it at a discount. There's just no excuse not to go into a negotiation having a really good idea at what the proper price should be, what the true value should be. Now, you know what your goal is. If you're a seller, you want to get a little bit above that value. If you're a buyer, you want to be a little bit below that. But everybody should go in knowing what it is. You'd be surprised how many people are ignorant. They don't do the research. They go in and rely on the other side to give them value and pricing advice. Good negotiators don't do that. So be prepared, know what it's worth, and then be what? Ambitious, but also make it discussable. Now, you also would be wise, as soon as you figure out what something is worth, is to come up with 3 prices. You may want to jot this down. Everybody, when you know what something is worth, whether you're selling or whether you're buying, you need to come up with 3 prices. I've even developed a little card, just a little guide for me, where I have the 3 prices on it. The top price is my aspired price. Let's say I'm a seller. What is my aspired price? That's the highest price I could ever dream about getting. I even dream a little bit and said, wow, what if I got a rich, ignorant buyer? Wouldn't it be great? What would I want from them? So you put that dream figure up there. Now you know you're probably not going to get it. Highly unlikely. So then you have your acceptable price. That's a little bit lower, but it would be a good deal for you and you would accept it. And ready for the next one? Don't ever go into a negotiation without knowing what you would like to get, what would be acceptable and a good deal, and then go down and identify your bottom line. That bottom line figure. If you can't get that figure, you're not going to take the deal. It's 1 penny less and you're out. So it's aspired, acceptable, and I call it the walkaway figure. Now let's reverse roles. Let's say we're a buyer and you did your research, you know what something is worth, and you know what you should pay for it. Why don't you come up with an aspired price? What you would like to get it for? What if you had a seller who was desperate to get rid of it and didn't know what it was worth? How much would you like to steal it for? Well, it's highly unlikely you'll get that sort of a bargain, but be ready. And then drop down a little bit and say, well, if I couldn't get that at that low price, then let's go down a little bit and find out what would be acceptable. What would still be a good deal? And then you go even the bottom one, which is walkaway. The walkaway is the highest price you'd pay before you say, you know what, I won't buy it at all. I cannot emphasize enough. If you're a seller, figure out what you would like to get, top figure, acceptable, and then your bottom line walkaway. You've got to have 3 prices, whether you're a buyer or a seller. Now, where do you make your offer? Where's your first offer? It kind of depends upon the market. If the market is a buyer's market, and which means there's a lot of sellers selling the same thing, how many think you could probably hint up toward your aspired price? But if it's a seller's market and there's not a lot of product or services out there, you may have to really go down to your acceptable and maybe down close to your walk away. You write the 3 out, you look at where you are, challenge the market, and you'll be able to figure out where you should be. And you know what? Don't forget, yet above all, you want to be above your acceptable and you want to be a little bit aggressive. What do we call it? We want to be ambitious, but we also want to make it discussable. That's where you ought to be. A couple other points you need to consider, and that is focus on interest, not position. Too many negotiators are worried about, well, what was that offer? How many dollars was it? What am I going to have to pay for that? What am I going to get for that? Instead, focus a little bit more on what are people's interests. Maybe somebody is moving and they're trying to get rid of things. How many think their interest is more of getting rid of things and getting some money for it than getting top dollar? So it may be the kind of thing where you'd say, you know what, I can't afford to give you that figure, but I'd give you that higher price if you would throw in that, and that. You know what they're saying? They're saying, wow, I'm going to have trouble getting rid of all that stuff, and I'm going to get my top dollar for the item I'm negotiating on, so I will take the deal. You know what? You could even do it in a hotel setting. I've done it in renting hotel rooms. They'll say, well, I'd like to rent a room. And they say, well, what is your rate? And they'll say, well, our rate is, and they give me $159. I say, wow, that's way beyond my budget. Remember that term which we said was a bracket? Can you do any better than that? There's that crunch. Well, you know, I probably can. We have a rate here for $129. Well, then you simply say, well, what is your corporate rate? Give me your best rate. Do you understand now all of a sudden they're going to drop it lower and lower? Now they might be down to 99. You know what? They're making money at $99. But you've got to be thinking, what is their interest? Their interest is to fill the room. They don't want the room empty during that night. They're not so much worried about the dollars as losing all their dollars. So focus more on somebody's interest and not so much on their position. And remember, be ready to flinch and be ready to be flinched. Whatever the other party's first offer is, you know you're going to flinch it. And you're hoping they make the first offer. If it isn't their turn to go first and you have to go first, don't be surprised if they flinch yours. That is a good sign. That means your offer what? Was aggressive. It was assertive. And that's exactly the position you want them to be in. Now wait a minute. Let's go one step further. What if we make a rather aggressive offer? Somebody's asking $100 per item, and you come in this is going to be really low. You say, you know, I was thinking somewhere along $40. I don't know what the item is, but anybody asking 100 probably thinks it's worth 80, and you come in at 40, I got to tell you that's low. They're going to be shocked to say 40. Maybe what you ought to do is soften that low ball offer. How much do you want for that, sir? Well, I'd like to have $100 for it. Well, wow. I'm not sure I could even come close to that. And maybe this isn't the right purchase. You know, I'm afraid to even tell you what I'm thinking because I sure don't want to hurt your feelings. Are you already setting them up for a low ball offer? I might be able to improve a little bit, but boy, I'm still a little bit anxious about sharing even. How many think he's going to beg the number to come out of you? Well, you know what I was really thinking? Probably only $40. You know, I may be able to go to 42. You're already indicating you make a little movement, but not much. If you make a very aggressive offer, could you soften the way you bring it in? How you soften an offer could even be creative. You want to hear a great way to make a low offer? Make 2 offers on the same item from the same party, that's you, at the same time. Somebody's selling something. And you say, well, there's 2 ways I'd consider buying it from you. I could give you this figure right here, but I would ask you to deliver it, guarantee it, and also give me a discount on other items. Notice all the conditions that come with that pretty good price. Or I could give you this lower price with no other conditions. Did you see what you did? You gave him a reasonable offer with a lot of contingencies or conditions. Or you gave him a low offer with none. I want you to think what we just did. You just put a value on all those conditions. And you know what else you did? You communicated to the other party that the delivery was a cost item to us. And we expect you to help me out. If you don't, then I'm not going to give you as much money. And the guarantee and the price lock and throwing in other items. What you're really doing is obeying the rule we talked about in other modules, and that is stay away from issue negotiation. But back to the concept of 2 offers from the same party on the same item. Now people say, John, I've never heard of that thing. Is it okay for you to go in with 2 offers? Well, I see your car there, it's for sale. I'll give you $8,000 cash, or I'll give you $9,000 if you put new tires on it, deliver it, change the oil, get it inspected, and guarantee it for a year. You know right now he doesn't want all those conditions, which is literally forcing them to go to that lower item, which now sounds a lot better because they don't have to do all that extra. Do you see how you can even couch or position your offer, your low offer, so it looks better in the long run? Now let's end this program by telling you about a concept called the pivot point. And here's what I want you to be aware of. When you make an offer, there is an offer that you can make exactly what something is worth. But what if you make an offer just slightly below it? If you make an offer just slightly below what it's really worth, what's the seller thinking? That offer is just a little bit low. If I do any good negotiating, I'm going to get the true value and maybe a little bit more. So what should you do? Don't come in a little low, be a little bit more ambitious but discussable. Now what does that do? Now that causes the seller to think, wow, I don't know whether I'm going to be able to get what that's really worth. I'm going to have to negotiate hard to try to get up there. But do you understand the negotiations are ongoing? Now let's say you go overboard. It's worth this, but instead of being a little bit low or a good bit low, you go way low to insulting. You know what happens when you go so low that it's insulting? The other person doesn't even take it serious. Not only not take it serious, now they're insulted and they don't even negotiate with you. You know what that's called? It's called the pivot point. And it works the other way too. What if you are a seller of something and you put a price on it just slightly above what it's worth? You know what a buyer's thinking? I'll be able to get this for its true value or maybe a little bit less. And if you go a little bit higher in your price, what's the buyer thinking? Well, you know what? If I negotiate, I might be able to get it right at what it's worth. Or what if a seller goes beyond reason and gets very ridiculous? That's when a buyer says, this seller isn't even serious about selling. You see, if you go too high, too low, the other people think you're crazy. They actually think that phrase. This buyer's crazy. This seller's crazy. It's not even worth negotiating with them. So the next time you're heading into a negotiation, whether you're going to the store, picking up the phone, getting on the internet, talking to your kids, should you spend more time preparing for that crucial initial first offer. Don't forget to leave yourself room to negotiate. Make it aggressive, ambitious, but also make it discussable. If it's too aggressive, figure a way to soften it. Keep the negotiations going. That's what great negotiators do. That's how they get more deals, as they keep negotiating.